Thank you for having me. My name is Amanda Straight. I am with Thomas P. Miller and Associates. I was here about a year ago to kick off this plan, and I'm excited to be back here now that we're officially releasing it. And I have the copy of it. I believe it just went up online. So I'm going to give a somewhat succinct, hopefully, overview. Obviously, as you can tell, it's a pretty lengthy document, so we won't go through all the details, but I like to give kind of a high-level overview of what's in the plan and kind of where we ended up after a year of hard work. So this is kind of just an overview of the overall contents. So we start out with kind of an introduction, a background on the plan, and kind of overview the structure. Chapter 2 is a summary of the entire background report, which you'll see is an appendix of the overall plan. And the same with the community engagement summary. Chapter 3, it's a summary, executive summary of the entire community engagement report. So a key component of this economic development strategic plan was doing some hefty background research regarding industries, housing trends, population trends, tourism in the county, a variety of other factors that go into kind of what our overall goals and strategies should be in the plan, and that can all be found in kind of Appendix A with the summary in Chapter 2. And then through this process, we also engaged with community members. We did a couple of public meetings as well as a public survey, and you can find all of the results of those in Appendix B with that summary of kind of the key themes in Chapter 3. I'm not going to touch on the contents of those in this presentation, just to kind of keep this brief, but I will talk about kind of the SWOT analysis, which really is kind of a summary of a lot of that information. It really breaks down into what are the key strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within the county when it comes to economic development, and we'll go through those, as well as the key goals. So out of those kind of SWOT analysis, we kind of have 4 key themes around goals for the county moving forward in economic development. And then I will talk about the 12 strategies that relate to those goals. I'm not going to get quite into the action items because there are 12 strategies, and for each strategy there's about anywhere from 2 to 6 action items, so that's a lot of detail. But you can see it in the plan, and then we also have kind of a handy-dandy implementation matrix that looks like this. In the plan is Chapter 7, which kind of outlines all of the action items, responsible parties, supporting organizations, and timeline. And I'll show an example of that up here as well. And the last chapter talks about projects, and these are mostly kind of existing infrastructure or development projects currently going on in the county that we would believe are really kind of impacting the overall economic development. And so we kind of break those down and talk about the key steps in those and what the impact on the county might be. So that's kind of an overview of the plan. To talk briefly about kind of the key things that came out as far as strengths, really focusing on anchor institutions. The Allegany College of Maryland and Frostburg State University are really key assets within the community. I'll talk about it in a sec, but one of the challenges, right, in a really important piece of economic development is workforce, and it's clear that Allegany County, the Allegany College of Maryland and Frostburg State are both really focused on that and are key assets in order to grow the workforce here. There are a variety of natural assets. Allegany County's location is ideal for drawing tourists to the community, especially the intersection of the Gap Trail and the CNO Trail. It's a key asset here that should be leveraged, as well as the existing cultural and historical sites within the community. There's a lot of opportunities for quality of place that can be really attractive to workers and businesses, and how the community continues to leverage that will be a key piece in this plan. Some of the weaknesses, really looking at the lack of diversity in housing type, and especially for sale availability. It makes it really hard for the community right now to attract and retain residents. And it's really been kind of a key factor in some of the difficulty with attracting and retaining certain jobs and industries. And that's become a key kind of component of this plan moving forward, not only looking at economic development, but how that aligns with workforce development, how that aligns with housing as well, to make this really a comprehensive strategy to address that issue. And there are a lot of economic development organizations and groups that are doing some sort of economic development in the county. And it's been kind of a struggle to not only coordinate those activities, but also how they kind of align some of the scarce resources. And so this plan really looked at how to align partners in economic development efforts moving forward. So some of the opportunities, this ties on to some of the strengths. The existing tourism base is obviously already here. There's plenty of opportunity to have some additional attractions and to enhance the overall visitor experience to really make this a tourism destination. There are already existing industrial parks, county-owned buildings. There's a lot of assets here that are key focal points for business attraction efforts, and with some more strategic alignment can really be a driver for business attraction moving forward. And then the downtown and Main Street corridors in both Cumberland and Frostburg. These are well-established locations, highly visible opportunities for real revitalization, quality of place efforts that we think can be really attractive for residents and quality workers in the future. So the key threats. Obviously, Allegany County has been struggling with a declining population, and I think that's why workforce is a key component of this plan, not only from a retention, but also from attraction standpoint. And it really threatens kind of the ability to keep existing and future businesses, because in this day and age, businesses are really looking for skilled labor when they look to relocate to a place. As I mentioned, the aging housing stock, it's not only difficult for attracting residents, but it also creates kind of a blight issue within the county, and it's something that we look to address in the plan as well. And then also aging infrastructure and water systems. And overall, what are the kind of infrastructure investments that need to be made to make sure that Allegany County is competing with larger places and attracting new businesses? So based on kind of those SWOT analysis, we really broke the plan and the plan strategies into these overall 4 goals, focusing on these topics. And we'll go through them one by one, so this is a kind of highlight. Remember the icons as we go through this, they'll be kind of important, but I'll kind of show you how we structured this here in a sec. So economic development programming is really about your traditional economic development. This is how the county looks to attract businesses, retain businesses. It's the functioning of how that process kind of goes. It's about developing kind of a formal business attraction plan, how the county kind of leads that, partners with Cumberland and Frostburg and the state in order to ensure that, that all of these activities are happening in a coordinated effort. Workforce and attraction and retention, as I said, is going to be a key component, I think, for Allegany County moving forward. And so this is a key goal of the campaign, of this plan, and we'll break down what those strategies are here in a second. Tourism development and reinvestment. As I mentioned, there's a huge opportunity for tourism within the county, and I think the ways in which some of the investments, not only in quality of place, but in tourism assets, can not only be a benefit for tourism industry, but also for workforce attraction is something that's addressed throughout this plan as well. And then housing and infrastructure investments. In order to continue for Allegany County to continue to compete for businesses, I think this is a key component of the economic development plan moving forward. So, as I mentioned, we have 12 strategies, and some of them are only really supporting one goal, but some of them are supporting multiple goals. So throughout the plan, we kind of associate them with a different goal icons. So the first 4 strategies, I believe, are only supporting kind of the overall economic development programming component and how the partners are aligned on this. So strategy 1 really is about that partner alignment piece. Reinforcing the roles of the different organizations and how they partner. Key action items here are kind of establishing a roundtable in which the key economic development organizations are meeting on a regular basis. It's also establishing some kind of key performance indicators to ensure that data is being tracked adequately and success is being measured in order to ensure that those desired outcomes are being achieved. Strategy number 2 is really that business attraction implementation plan. This is about kind of creating a plan for, dealing with the site selectors, dealing with, doing some strategic travel in order to make sure that Allegany County is seen as kind of a key business attraction place moving forward. Strategy number 3 is really about this business retention and expansion program. So most new jobs are created within a community, and I think BRE is super important for all communities to do, and sometimes it's not quite as popular, or it's not quite as seen as neat and fun, but it's a huge component of every economic development program, and I think this plan that we've outlined really gives the county a strategy for partnering on how to touch and reach out to existing businesses in order to ensure that they don't have, that if they have intentions to expand, they can do that within the county, and that they are welcome in the county and continue to grow here. And then strategy 4 is really about leveraging the private sector into the county's economic development efforts. So private sector leadership is really important. If private businesses that are here are thriving and involved in economic development efforts, it shows new businesses that this is a place where businesses are engaged. And so the more that the private sector can get involved in economic development moving forward, the better. So this is really about establishing some committees and getting them involved in the process in order to make sure that that happens moving forward. So this is when we start touching kind of on not only housing, but also this kind of workforce element. So as I mentioned, housing is kind of a key factor in attracting workforce to the community. And so this strategy really deals on how the county and the stakeholders involved in this plan can really engage housing developers from external markets to really look at how new housing and redeveloped housing in Allegany County can really be financed. It also involves kind of doing some unique studies on where what types of housing are really should be prioritized and where within the county. Strategy, so not only did we want to look at kind of new and redeveloped housing, but also supporting renovations of existing housing. So creating a program in which there can be some assistance provided to residents of homes to encourage them to upkeep their homes is a key component of the plan as well. So the next 2 strategies really deal with this talent retention and attraction. So the first one focuses on retention, aimed at kind of communicating and engaging local high school, community college, and the university students into why they should stay in Allegany County, what makes Allegany County a great place to live, and how you can connect high school students to jobs within the county. And then strategy number 8 is really about that talent attraction. So there's kind of 2 components. It can be recruiting returning residents. So, through this process, kind of as the retention effort goes on, there's a purpose to kind of creating a touch point with people who have lived in the community and may leave, but encouraging them to see how Allegany County might have changed over the few years and why they should come back is a key component. And then also, what are some kind of essential key components that would be fed into a talent attraction strategy focused on new residents as well. This strategy is really about tourism and kind of how Allegany County can continue to market the tourism destinations and tourism assets within the community, especially with, as I said, the unique location that Allegany exists in, close to these kind of 3 major metropolitan areas, and how a marketing campaign can encourage people to kind of come to Allegany County as kind of an overnight trip destination from those anchors. And then also looking at how the existing tourism products in the county can be enhanced. So this includes kind of investments in the gateways connecting the trails to downtown in order to encourage people traveling through on the trails to come into the cities and really experience all the kind of retail and restaurant options within the community. And it also looks at the new kind of products. Canal Place and that type of thing, and leveraging some of the state parks in order to drive some other kind of tourism activities within the county as well. So number 11 is really about this kind of quality of place investment really in downtown Cumberland and Frostburg. And I know this is something that Cumberland is very focused on with Baltimore Street. And those kind of investments that can really attract kind of the type of people who want to be in places with nightlife and retail and also providing options for housing in those type of places. And it helps not only on the tourism side to attract people to that type of place, but also from a talent attraction side to encourage people to see what kind of new activities are going on in Cumberland and Frostburg in order to want to kind of be in those places. And then lastly, it's really about broadband. So one of the key outcomes of some of the engagement talked about the need for increased broadband coverage within the county. And this strategy kind of looks at the existing kind of plan that has been in place and how that can be executed in order to ensure that residents and commercials have access to broadband coverage within the county. So as I mentioned, so those are the 12 strategies. I think my numbers are wrong. I don't know where, but hopefully they were all in there. Implementation matrix, like I said, really looks at all of these key partners that were engaged throughout this process and how they fit into this plan. Because a key component of this process was to ensure that this isn't just Allegany County executing on all of these pieces. So through engaging with all of these stakeholders, we've kind of outlined who's kind of responsible for different pieces. And I'm sorry this isn't very legible, but each strategy essentially has each of these action items, and each action item will have kind of a responsible organization, and then the organizations that are supporting it, as well as kind of outlining a timeline for when this could be accomplished. So this really provides that tool for the county to ensure the execution of the plan moving forward. So I got through that all, I think, pretty quickly. Lastly, and I'm sorry you also can't read this very well, I just wanted to give a shout out to all the people who helped on this plan. We had a great steering committee of regional stakeholders that contributed. I have to thank our partners, Destination by Design, Gentleman McCarty and Chris Massengill on the consultant team, as well as all of the Allegany County staff, Jeff, Greg, Brandon, Ashley, Angie, Jessica, Elizabeth, all helping out, as well as the county commissioners. We really enjoyed being part of this project, and we're so excited to see it move to this phase and hopefully go into implementation. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Great. No, thank you very much, and Greg, thank you for your involvement in this. I think you've been working on this since you started in economic development a year ago. Stu, thank you for being involved in the steering committee. I know you've been pushing for this for a long time. Commissioner Brody, thank you. 2 years ago was when we first appropriated the money for this plan. And at the time, they said, we don't need a plan right now. It might take a little while. Well, it took almost 2 years, and Thomas P. Miller has only been involved for about a year of that. But we wanted to make sure we got it done right. And I think what this is going to provide is goals and metrics and really a long-term strategy for what Allegany County is going to do, and what economic development means, and really what the focus is going to be, because there's a lot of organizations that say that they do economic development locally, but if you're not tying into an overarching plan that we've developed with a lot of stakeholder input, it's probably not the best use of time or resources. So it's going to be available online. I think it already is. It is much more detailed than what you talked about today. It's 200 pages of really thick material, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of implementation. But I think this has been lacking for so long, and it's been so important for us to get over this hump and really take the next step. So thank you for all of your efforts on this, and thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Commissioners. Okay. All right. Item number 3 is in Allegany business expansions and growth. Administrator Butler.
Commissioners, good evening. To echo Amanda's comment earlier, there are a lot of unsung heroes as it relates to business expansion and economic development in the community. So we wanted to put together a packet of information that is accessible to the public, as well as it's in your packets. I believe it's in the media's packet as well. To really outline some of the, as I like to kind of refer to them as the unsung heroes, the companies that are expanding day in and day out in this community that sometimes don't always get the credit that they deserve. So wanted to give that, as Amanda said, give the shout out in order to do that. And so very quickly wanted to buzz down through these. These will also be available online. And shareable for the public as well. First, of course, is Hunter Douglas, and what a experienced organization that they have had here in Allegheny County. They've expanded 7 times in this community. They took a facility that was originally in Frostburg, and now have expanded over with 900 employees, now working in a 400,000 square foot facility. Commissioners, of note here as well is Exclamation Labs with Jonathan Hutcherson just up the street on Washington Street. Here is a world-class talent attraction opportunity for us as well as it relates to the financial and insurance markets with software and web applications. Moved from Philadelphia to Cumberland in 1999. Purchased its headquarters. It has expanded now to over 30 employees, and that group is growing. Of course, commissioners, as you know, and particularly Commissioner Brody, as you were very instrumental in Rocky Gap being what it is today, where that facility continues to exceed expectations. Now growing to many slot machines, table games, and consistently provides revenue for the county. Schroeder Industries, they were in here a few months ago with our director Jeff Barclay. They have expanded 4 times in Allegheny County. They continue to grow as well. Now up to a 60,000 square foot building, also in Mexico Farms. American Woodmark, another story where again a facility that was once located in headquartered just in Winchester, Virginia, and now anchors our business park out in Barton for custom cabinetry, and of course Websteront, also at the Mexico Farms facility. Again, they've invested more than $7 million in private capital to acquire and renovate the Allegany site. Hired 230 employees in 2014. Purchased and renovated a 500,000 square foot building. Maintains 22 million in inventory. And of course, Berry Plastics. Now found out the other day, Berry Plastics is the #1 plastics manufacturer in the world right now. And they are located right here in Allegheny County, Maryland. A growing Fortune 400 company, over 290 manufacturing worldwide locations. And again, the goal here then is to look for our next success story in Allegheny County. Gentlemen, this represents over 1 million square feet of building, millions of dollars in tax revenue that's provided in this community. These that we just glossed over very quickly, over 2,000 jobs in this county. So they are providing day in and day out, and so those on social media and those on other, the rap is, there's nothing going on here, and I think this tells a totally different story as well as what Amanda presented today, and just wanted to share with you some good news.
Wonderful. Gentlemen.
Good. And thank you.
Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. Mr. Butler.
Commissioners, consent agenda item number 4 is the Maryland Water Service Water Supply Agreement. And number 5 is the fiscal 2020 grant going to, I stumble over that one all the time, so I'm going to move on. Item number 6 is the Vertical Bridge Site Use Agreement. Item number 7 is surplus real property. Item number 8 is the Allegany County partial acquisition for the Garden City Mobile Home Park. Item number 9, is the Kessel Properties. Please note that this is in Mount Savage, Maryland, an acquisition agreement there. Item number 10 are bleachers, team benches, and other sports equipment request for proposal award. Item number 11 is a request for qualifications for an architectural and engineering team. And finally, item number 12 is an appropriation out of the Community Promotions Fund.
Gentlemen, any discussion?
No, sir.
Is there
I'll make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. We only have one person signed up to speak tonight, Mr. Eric Turner and Don Ward. Please, gentlemen.
Got some presentation pamphlets that I'd like to hand out.
Thank you.
I actually have this.
We really
That's fine.
got to keep it even, yes. We'll share. We'll share. Thank you.
That's
So my name is Eric Turner. This is Mr. Don Ward. We're both business owners in the area. I have Potomac Contracting. He owns the downtown Chick-fil-A in Cumberland here. I heard Mr. Butler just say that you're looking for your next success story. So I thought maybe I could play off of that just a bit and just say that, I think we have a lot of potential to be the next success story in Cumberland, Maryland. Allegany High School, the old Allegany High School. I believe there's been some discussion about what the fate of that building is going to be. And, our proposal is basically to refurbish the building, to create what we've coined as being the Allegany Creative Arts and Entertainment Facility. This, would be easier if I had a little bit of a, I guess if you could go through with me, those of you that have a pamphlet, what we're really trying to do, we're trying to create not only something where people are going to want to come and into the county, visitors from out of county, but we also want to be able to create job opportunity for people. And we actually have a business plan outlined here that would entail events being held once a month, 12 months a year, because we would have the indoor venue, which is now the gymnasium. It would, of course, turn into what we've coined as the event center, the Allegany Event Center. We could seat over 2,000 people in that venue. And our conservative numbers that we've come up with after doing, all of our research, we've come up with some conservative numbers of $130,000 injection per show that we have. So if we had just under 2,000 people come into this show, this is not a packed house, but this is just an average calculation that we came up with. Between hotel, between food consumption, between the ticket sales, everything that we had calculated into that, we came up with $130,000 cash injection into the community once a month for each show. Now, it doesn't mean there isn't going to be anything else. There's 176,000 square foot in that building. And I know there has been some concern about, I guess, the structural integrity of the building, which I can say, I've been in construction for the past 25 years of my life, 17 years in business for myself, and I've been through the building numerous times over the past 6 months, calculating and working on this business plan here. And although there are some minor structural issues, the overall whole of the school is in very good condition. The structural integrity of the school is in good condition. The heating system does need to be replaced, hands down, but we've got some preliminary numbers on that. And we feel confident enough that within the next 7 years, we would sink approximately $5.5 million into the building, creating a business that would generate taxable income, that would have an influx of income into the community, both in the food sales and hotel sales. We're going to be bringing tourists in, create over 100 jobs within the first 7 years is what we're looking at. And I know it doesn't necessarily compare to the 600 or 700 that some of these big plants are injecting into the community. But I mean, 100 jobs is definitely something worth looking into. I mean, I guess I've kind of caught wind based on newspaper articles that there's some talk about tearing the school down. I mean, if we could just look at that for just a moment. I don't know if you guys have started pulling numbers together for the demolition of the school. I mean, I think it was estimated maybe around $4 million that the county would have to pay. Well, rather than pay the $4 million to tear it down, why not give two people that have proven themselves in the community to be good stewards of what's given to them? Give us the opportunity to turn this into something that will benefit our community, instead of just a grassy field or a house that'll be sold and then that's the end of it. You know, we're talking about longevity. We're talking about creating something here that will continue on for generations to come. You know, I heard about, you know, the multi-generational business, the Princess. You know, that's what we want to be able to do. We want to be able to create these things that can be passed down through generation to generation to generation, that can be, you know, something that Cumberland might become known for. We are a historical town, for sure. We're a historical county. But, you know, people don't always necessarily come for history. And people want to come for entertainment. People, and I'm not saying all people, I'm not speaking for everyone, but, excuse me, there's a need. I feel like there's a need for something else in this town. I really do. I feel as though, well, could I have some thoughts from you guys? I mean, I'm hoping for a little bit of feedback here. I know I've talked to each of you individually throughout the course of this, and I've kind of gotten some mixed reviews. I mean, we have done a good bit of research through this course, you know, and I know Dawn and I both feel very confident that we can do something with this. We have the ability to do something with this. You know, it's not as though we're going to be asking for any money from the county. We plan on privately funding the entire project. We just need an opportunity. We just need the opportunity to show you and you know, the community that something greater can be done with this school. I would love it if you would, please. Yeah.
Again, gentlemen, thank you so much for the opportunity to let us share our passions and our hearts. I've been here 40 years now with a little company called Chick-fil-A, and we just excelled $10 billion in sales last year. So we're doing okay. And I know that, let me ask you, if there's a concert or a venue that you want to go to, how far would you drive to go see that concert? If it's 2 hours or less, we have maybe 10, 15 million people within 2 hours or less, including Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Washington, D.C. Maybe we'll, you know, stretch, maybe say 7, 8 million. That's a huge customer base to draw from. And we figure that, you know, when you have a concert venue, and by the way, this is not simply a concert venue. For instance, there's a great example of a warehouse facility on the east side of Hagerstown, right on the dual highway, near the Sheets. Our Chick-fil-A operator in that area leased a space about 5 or 6 years ago, and I think there might have been 4 or 5 occupants in that building. It is almost completely full now with 35 to 40 businesses, and those businesses are very varied. It's a wide array. I mean, there's a pet grooming center. There are 2 small churches. There's a Spanish church and there's a Haitian church, I believe there. There are doctors' offices there. There are 2 or 3 real estate companies. There is a small store that services. There's a big daycare center there. And in between the two buildings, which we certainly have that space at the Allegany High School, there is some gardens and places to sit down. The children have a place to play there at the daycare center. There's a home improvement center in there. There's graphic design artists in there. And what we see, not that I will tell you that we're going to use 176,000 square feet. We're not going to do it. I envision 65% of the building in a 10-year period. There's just areas that, you could film a scary movie in there, you know what I'm saying? Okay, it's down in the dungeons, if you will. I walked in there and went, wow, I don't even want to be in here. So those areas would be blocked off, cordoned, whatever needs to be done. But we do see a tremendous need for space. A classroom could easily be divided in half. We've had all kind of ideas. For instance, you have some units in there for elderly residences. I would be on the idea of we make sure that we take small steps and we make sure that what's viable that we can use now or very soon. Eric has, of course, all the building contracts, the contacts that we could possibly need. We know all the people that need to have this thing in place. What we need is your support. And one of Chick-fil-A's major goals, one of our corporate statements that we have lived by since 1981 was to glorify God by being a good steward of what's entrusted to our care. And we have a historic building, and the presentation made about the future economic development. Man, she just kept hitting strikes. Hitting home runs in the air, just about every other word. Yeah, that's what we want to do. That's what we want to create. We have this incredible building. It is a historical building. Why not use it as a cornerstone for business opportunities? Again, there's a lot of people might just need a small office space. They have an idea or they need a space. There's plenty of space in there. Right now, our major concerns about the uses would be the auditorium, the library, centrally located, and then of course the gymnasium. All those we feel are very viable places right now that we could use. Eric and I are both musicians. We sing and we play, and we envision recording studio in the main area right when you come in with a reception desk, 2 offices on the side, teaching rooms, viewing rooms, rooms that musicians can rent out. And guys, we got a lot of music talent in this town. I'm amazed. And Mr. Greg Larry, it would certainly be invited to help us get some of those groups together and use this ability. So those studios would be rented out. The music venues, again, will bring people to the area, and people who come from that. I don't know, I don't want to be over-exaggeration, but let's say, 30% of the people that come from Pittsburgh, Washington, D.C. would like to stay. And if they're going to stay, they're probably going to eat dinner. And if they're going to eat dinner, then stay, they'll probably have breakfast. They're probably going to fill up their car with gas. So we see it, Allegany County, I've just known so many people who have moved away, and so many come back and say, this is such a nice place. And I wasn't here for the heyday of the Queen City, but I look back and say, selling these fibers, please help me. 12 to 13,000 employees at one time. Okay, the Kelly Springfield World Headquarters, Pittsburgh Plate Glass, Bayliner Boats. Now, thank God for, the American Woodmark and for Hunter Douglas and some of these companies that are coming in. And this is, I'm an Alabama boy. but I've been here longer than any place I've been. And I love Allegany County, and I love the people. I've made a lot of friends. It's a great place to live, and I've invested a lot of time and effort. I mean, this is where I plan to die. And not for a long time, I hope.
Mr. Ward?
Not anytime soon.
Eric, excuse me, but I have another board meeting at 6 o'clock
Okay,
at the
excuse me.
airport.
All
I
right,
have to
so
go.
thank
So
you.
thank you very
Thank
much.
you for
And I'm
thank you
sure
for your
the
time.
commission president and administrator is going to
Great.
have a meeting with you guys. So,
Thank you, Commissioner.
thank you.
Mr. Caparelli?
Well, this all comes down, I think the biggest question any of us has had is regarding funding. You're stating 7 years, about $5.5 million. I think it would probably take at least half of that to get the building even up to par initially. We had some of our colleagues recently went on a tour through this building and acknowledged the state that it was in. It's not that we don't want to help somebody out or don't believe in the things that you're saying or the type of project, but my question is, where was the funding going to come from? And secondly, if you have this type of funding, why wouldn't you get a building or something else that's turnkey, ready to go? And, it's hard to say how long it would take to get this building up
Well, and
to a running state.
the one thing that I can say, building expenses in today's era, I mean, it's astronomical. I mean,
Can you speak up? We can't hear you.
building expenses in today's world just seem to be relatively astronomical, and it's not that that would necessarily be out of the question, but where would the location be? I think that's what the big question is. Where would we find a place or a location that we could build something of that magnitude? The fact is, I mean, we see the building that's already there, and granted, I know it does need work to get it fixed up, but it's almost always cheaper to rehab an older building rather than just completely build a new one from ground up. I mean, that's almost always the case. It's almost always cheaper to do it that way. And we're talking about 170,000+ square feet of space. Now, just like Mr. Ward said, we're not going to use all of that. We don't anticipate to use all of that. But we do plan on using as much as possible. I mean, I would imagine, 65 to 75% of the building in 10 years is a good number. We ourselves have countless business plans that we've already written up, things that we personally plan on planting into the facility. And in addition to that, I've got other businesses locally that have been interested in joining us in our venture. We've talked about an entrepreneurial development team, which seems to kind of fall right in line with the heartbeat of what you guys are kind of working on right now. Building up new business leaders would be another thing. It's not just creating a job, that's creating multiple jobs when you can build up another leader. And so that's not what we're not trying to build up any followers. We're not looking for employees. We want to be able to build up more leaders to just create even more jobs. See, I knew we were kind of limited on time. I had a few things that, I had wanted to, I guess, go over here. And it's not quite as...
I guess what we would say is that, you have a plan, and we would just ask you to please review that plan, and please keep an open mind. And we've been, I guess, on this journey for at least a couple of years. And then we were thinking about other things, and all of a sudden, I just mentioned that one day about Allegany High School.
We've been looking for that place, right? And when you said that, it just seemed like that would be the right spot.
And yes, sir, to address, David, your concerns, yet, again, we're not refurbishing the entire building.
Right.
At one time, and yeah, it may be what we're saying, but that's over a 10-year period. You start, like you said, Hunter Douglas, I used to deliver to Hunter Douglas from Morgan Frostburg. Very small company. We still deliver to Hunter Douglas. I'm glad we do.
Yeah, big company.
They buy a lot more food now. But, yeah, we understand about development, and it takes time. And, 1981, I didn't do $400,000 in sales. And last year I did $5,944,000 in sales. same town, less jobs, but you just keep plugging away. You keep the right thing, the right attitude, over and over and over again. You repeat good behavior. You
Right.
provide a service. You know, the key to successful business is finding people needs, fill it. And that's what we're trying to do. We feel like that there's an opportunity for entertainment venues. There's an opportunity for, what if we had a slinky zone, or what if we had,
Well, there's so many different
you
ideas.
know,
That's
like
just
a
kind of
laser park, or,
too much to get into.
And we don't disagree with any of that, Don. We don't at all. I think our concern is you have a building that we feel, and the people that have gone through it feel is going to take a tremendous amount of money to get up day one. And the other piece of it is, even doing that, there's no guarantee that it's going to not revert back to the county, and rapidly, it's rapidly becoming a blighted property right now. And we need to get something resolved very quickly on the high school. And you know, now is kind of the time, if we're going to get state funding and all that stuff to tear it down. It's a lot easier to do it now when it was just a school last year than if something else would happen to it for a few years, and then you have to go back and try to get county ownership and all that. And the heating thing, the exact same thing. They're coal-powered furnaces, boilers, all that stuff. The issue is they will not grant another permit if that transfers outside of a governmental entity. So all of that stuff will instantly have to be replaced.
Well, the conversion from coal to gas, though,
Right.
however, is not quite as complicated as what it may have been made out to be. Some of the same equipment can still be reused, and that was one of the things that we had addressed whenever we walked through. Was we didn't want to have to completely renew the entire system. So there were some aspects of that system that could be reused that would cut down substantially on the cost of replacing it, such as the piping.
well, Mr. Shea, may I ask you a question, sir, please? What do you have in mind if you were to demolish the building? What would you look at better?
Well, what-
Any thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And how this process will likely play out is we would do an RFP to see what the cost of demolition would be, used for other causes. And then from there, obviously, we would solicit bids for that. And then down the line, maybe it's a townhouse community. I think that would kind of be the most ideal thing for that neighborhood and that fit. If you had to ask me today, obviously there could be other uses, but if you had to ask me today, that would probably be the best use, the best fit of the neighborhood, and really what Cumberland and the county needs. Not that we don't need what you all are talking about, but I think doing it in Allegany High School is going to be tremendously difficult and expensive for you. And from our position here, we have to make the right decision for 73,000 people and what's going to be in the best interest of everyone. And I see a big risk in delaying the demolition of the school. And we've heard, depending on who says it, save the gym, save the auditorium, save everything but the gym and auditorium, save it all, tear it all down. And it's hard to come up with a compromise on that.
Sure.
Well, because there are some really great aspects about the school. The gymnasium is still in great shape now. I did hear there was, I guess, some minor vandalism that had happened in the gymnasium, which was a little disheartening to hear. But the auditorium, for instance, just has all of those new. I mean, they got a lot of new work done in there prior to moving to the new school. So, I mean, there are some aspects in there. It's a shame to just tear that to the ground.
Well, a question that I just thought about was that, do you want townhouses there that will give you a one-time shot? Or would you like to have something there that is repetitive and long-standing over a long period of time? As far as, economy goes, you sell a townhome, it's done, it's over.
Still pay taxes each year.
They still pay
Right?
taxes.
Yeah, it's tax base.
So the businesses that we would have in there also would pay taxes
They
as
would
well.
pay, that's right. And the one thing, just to add to that, nothing great has come without risk. That's one thing that I know for certain. When I decided 17 years ago to start a home improvement company, I had no idea it would turn into what it's turned into. But it has turned into something great. It's turned into a great opportunity for me. Don, I'm sure, whenever he went into the Chick-fil-A business, had no idea how wonderful things were going to turn out for him.
No idea.
But these were risks that we took. And the fact of the matter is, I know there's risk involved. And I'm not going to try to tell you that 100% certainty that that things won't go south. I can't do that. I can project to the best of my ability. But the one thing that I can say is, we are good stewards of the things that have been entrusted to us. And, given this opportunity, I feel confident that you wouldn't have to worry about anything. Now, it would be a risk for you to say, okay, fine, we will entrust you with this school. But it's equally as much risk on us. We're talking about risking our livelihood on something for this community. This isn't about us. This is about something we can do for this community. When we're talking about the community development, the economic development of Allegany County, it's good to have broad goals, and it's good to have general goals, but we have to be able to zero in and pinpoint some real solutions.
Real specific
items, the things that can happen.
Again, we were watching them, and I just felt like, all right, we can do that.
I thought today's the day that we need to be here, because it kind of falls right in line with where we are, because we feel like we're the answer to some of these issues here.
Great.
Moving on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
guys, for your time.
gentlemen.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Mr. Wilmot?
I'll make a comment on the subject. I'm Kenneth Wilmot. I live at 513 Fort Avenue, Cumberland, Maryland. I was born and raised in Cumberland. I know all about Allegany High School. When it all started to build a new school, they published all the defects in that school. And there ain't no way in the world that you're going to resurrect that building. It needs a new roof, new walls, new floors are sagging, places are wrecked. Get rid of it. There's an old saying, if you want to throw your money away, buy an old house and try to make it into a new one. I had personally demoed 3 houses on the street I live on. And every time I get finished, people say, why didn't you save that thing? I said, you got to be crazy. I said, the thing's over 100 years old. It's like most of the housing in Allegany County is over 100 years old. They're all running on borrowed time. The plumbing is antique in that building over there, as antique as it can get. And it's polluted with asbestos to start with, the whole building. So the best thing you can do, the sooner you demo that place, the better off we're going to be. That is a residential district. It's an eyesore for them people over there. And the next thing is, where in the world is he going to get parking space for 2,000 people? You ever been up to Allegany? Good luck, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Wilmot.
Take care.
We don't need to get into a whole debate on it.
Why waste time and money on something?
Noted. Okay. All right. Mr. Rudd?
I have nothing further other than it's time to go.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Butler?
I agree with Mr. Rudd.
There you go.
Commissioner Caparelli?
I second.
All right. I will add, the strategic plan, long time coming. Greg, thank you for all your work on that. And finally getting it done. So, okay, I guess our meeting is adjourned. The next public business meeting will be Thursday, September 12th, 5 p.m.
Thank you, everyone.
It is like residential.
It's in the neighborhood. Kids do the home